Welcome to the first day of the 7 days of rest. And today we are going to be focusing on rebirthing. Well, I don't know of a better way of rebirthing than by wiping the slates clean. And in order to wipe the slate clean first, we need to practice releasing. And in order to release, we need to practice forgiveness. Most of us are carrying along on our backs grudges, unhappiness, long held or short held resentments, etc., that are in the background clouding up our fields. These are absolutely useless and, in fact, are detrimental to our beings. So, the most important thing is to release them, but we don't want to release them in anger or bitterness. You can't just take them and flush them down the drain. That's not how it works. How it works best is if we can understand fully why they are still bugging us, why we're still carrying them around. And through that understanding, learn to release them with love and compassion. The easiest way that I know of to do that is to use the infinity wave, which is a symbol, a moving, living symbol of love and compassion. And by releasing these long or short held angers, resentments, etc., with love and compassion through understanding, they become truly and fully released. Now, please listen to the longer preamble to this practice. It's very important that you understand the context that it came in with. And I'd like to say that today it is even more relevant than it was in 2012 when it arrived in a vision to me. We are in such a state of rigidity, most of us, many of us. I'm not saying everyone, of course, but this rigidity of firmly held belief systems and the bifurcation of our society to make one group wrong and one group right, etc. This will not bring us together. This will not bring about the world that we envision, that is upstanding and holding unity consciousness, not just between people, but between humans and the earth herself. We need to come into harmony with all of it. And the very first step, in my opinion, is through forgiveness. So enjoy this practice. It is a high level practice. It is the last one received in all of my initial practices with the infinity wave. And it is not to be taken lightly, but it is something to be done over and over, as there are many layers of things that we hold on to. You will feel lighter afterwards, I promise. So please enjoy this practice, listen to the preamble, and have a beautiful day.
The journey of forgiveness. We are now going to embrace the topic of forgiveness. We have been taught that to err is human and to forgive is divine, and I fully believe that statement. However, there are levels of forgiveness, and I'd like to explore these many layers. Quite often, when we forgive someone, it is a feeling of largesse on our part to release that person from feeling guilty for having done something wrong to us, having hurt us in some way. Inherent in this kind of forgiveness is a hierarchy where we are the greater human forgiving the other, the erring human. While there's nothing wrong with that kind of forgiveness, it is only the tip of the iceberg, and it doesn't complete the journey. The journey of forgiveness is a deep and powerful spiritual initiation. It takes one down to the core of their being and allows the soul to reemerge to a freer, more joy-filled place. Sometimes people or events transpire in our lives in order to draw our attention to something or someone we need to forgive. As I said, forgiveness happens on several levels. Many of us forgive on really the most superficial level. That's the level where we are somehow better than the person who we are forgiving. This sets up a hierarchy, which is really incorrect. What's true is that we are all human, and we all do and say things that cause harm on occasion. This is simply a part of being human. Therefore, when someone does something to us, a deeper form of forgiveness sets us up as equals, as fellow humans. And as such, we forgive as we are forgiven. We forgive ourselves for our transgressions as we forgive the other. This is a deeper level of forgiveness, and yet there are deeper levels still, which we will explore when we do the practice. This particular practice of forgiveness is taken on by those who truly want to evolve and shed themselves of aspects that are holding them back, that are weighing them down. It's so human to carry grudges, to say, yes, I can forgive this person and that person, but I'll never forgive so-and-so. And yet that is the very connection that is longing to be dealt with and released. I understand that this is a challenging idea for many. It certainly was for me. I can tell you that I experienced this myself, that dropping resentments and burdens creates space for something new to come in. I went through a prolonged practice of forgiveness towards someone who had wronged me for most of my life. And as soon as I had reached the conclusion, which you will be experiencing as well, I was quite surprised to find what happened next and what room I had made for the new thing that I'm referring to. For me, it took the form of visions and channelings of a profound nature. These began almost immediately as soon as I had released myself from old resentments. As I progressed through channelings and visions, I was surprised with a visit from Jesus, who I will call Jeshua, Mary Magdalene, and the mother, Mary. This came as a shock to me, as I did not have a relationship with any one of them, although I honored and followed words and actions that are attributed to them. The message that Jeshua brought to me on the day before Easter had to do with the concept of suffering. He spoke quite eloquently about the way that humanity has focused on the suffering that he endured during the crucifixion rather than on the release of suffering. He said that this thought form, that suffering is somehow redemptive, that there is a good quality to suffering, that there is a quality of suffering that somehow translates to us that we are good if we suffer. He said that this thought form is so entrenched in us that it is almost on a cellular level, that it has been passed down and passed down, that the action of his crucifixion has been misconstrued into a focus on this suffering as being somehow redemptive, and that we don't even realize how deeply entrenched that is in our consciousness. He encouraged me to focus instead on the truth of his words that he would arise, that the spirit is not bound to the flesh, that we are indeed free. This freedom has many faces. We can become freed mentally, emotionally, physically, and of course, spiritually. We can also suffer on all those levels, or even on one or two of them. The important message that he was communicating to me was that we, as a people, needed to look within ourselves to find where that concept of suffering was lying and feeding our bodies and our systems, feeding our thinking and our actions. That if we could get to the root of that thought form, we could then invite it to leave. All those of Christian faith have been taught about this crucifixion and suffering. That thought forms a kind of web wrapping around the earth and actually induces more suffering. It acts as an attractor for more suffering. So if each person goes within him or herself and pulls out this idea and invites it to leave, imagine the lightening of the burden of humanity. Jeshua communicated that he is working on other planes to scrub the planet of this suffering thought form. It seemed to be the activity he is most involved with. And what does suffering have to do with forgiveness? Often, we are suffering with a held pain, a held memory of something or someone who has harmed us. And on a level we may not even be conscious of, that suffering is rotating within us. The key to releasing that suffering is to go through this deep process of forgiveness that you're going to do momentarily. I promise you, you will emerge feeling so much lighter and cleaner and more available for the new thing to move into your life. Don't be surprised if after this practice you have a period of mourning. This is not uncommon, especially when you have forgiven an old wrongdoing. If you can imagine that that wrongdoing has grown tentacles wrapping around your entire being, And when you route it out, it's going to leave a gap. Even though you're better off without that pain, it's going to feel empty. And you may experience a mourning of that release. That is perfectly natural. And I encourage you to flow with the process of mourning as long as you need to. It's very important that you do so. So be sure to give yourself enough time and space at the end of this practice for whatever may need to follow. The beauty of it is that as we walk through the rigors of an exercise such as this, what it frees up in us, what it makes available to us in the long run, is of such a high quality that our lives begin to flower and open to much more positivity than before. For these old grudges tend to collect and magnetize negative experiences to them. If you're wondering why you may be caught up in a stream of challenging situations, I encourage you to look deeply and see who or what group of people you need to forgive. Because most of the time, those people or that thing that you are not forgiving is not harming them in the slightest. The only one being harmed is you. And you are the only one who can correct the situation. So, I want to encourage you to take this step and know that I am with you on this path today. I am right by your side, having been through this many, many times.
Dear ones, let us begin with some deep breathing. Let us anchor ourselves into the earth with deep exhales downward from the heart center into the earth. Imagine a tube running through your body from your heart center downwards, and exhale through that tube, deeper and deeper into Mama Gaia. Breathing back up into your heart center, that which she has to offer you, whatever you imagine that to be. Releasing into her any heavy energies, any cares and concerns. Allow them to drain from you with every breath, and breathe back up her loving kindness, her constancy, her care for you. Now imagine that tube extends from your heart center up through your crown. And now you will breathe from the heart center upwards, exhaling up and out like a great fountain, expanding outwards in all directions. And breathing back into your heart center. Whatever you imagine this realm holds for you. Whatever wisdom, light, love of the divine realms comes back into your heart in an easy flow. Expanding outwards and receiving that light, that wisdom, that love back into the heart. And now breathing from both directions, from the earth and from the divine realms, breathing in towards the heart and exhaling above and below. And just breathe like that for a few moments. And as you do so, the tube within you expands. And the above and the below meet and meld and become one. And you feel this divine connection that you have to both realms, both equally spiritual realms. Not one more than the other. And you are the fortunate soul standing in between as the communicator of both and the one who can take action for both. Now, imagine you are sitting in a white room. There is one door that is closed and no windows, yet there is light in this white room. You sit in one chair, and opposite you, there is another chair. Expanded in consciousness as you are now, you are relaxed and comfortable. the door is going to open, and through the door will emerge a person or persons or an event that your subconscious and your soul wish for you to forgive. You may be surprised at who shows up. Now the door opens. And the one asking to be forgiven walks to the chair and sits down. This person cannot see you. Staying in the altered state of calm, you gaze upon this person or persons. And the memory of how they hurt you, or you perceived that they hurt you, begins to come bubbling up from the realms of your subconscious. But it only arises to 40 or 50%, which means that it is like gazing at it at arm's length. You can still have a perception of the feeling of hurt, but it does not flood your system. But the pain is real. While holding that feeling, you gaze again at this person. You may even stand and walk around this person. And as you do so, you are really seeing them as if for the first time. You are presencing them in a way you may not have ever done before, because you are now looking at their soul. You are gazing into the imperfect human that they are, and understanding why they have the imperfections they have. How they were wronged, perhaps as children, perhaps as young adults, perhaps later in life. Something happened that created an insensitivity that resulted in harming you. Sitting back down now and taking into account what this person, this soul has gone through, how saddened, perhaps, how disappointed, perhaps, they are or were in your life. How unable to fulfill for you what you needed from them. And as you contemplate these things, you begin to run an infinity wave from your heart to theirs. There is no efforting to create the emotions of love and compassion that are present inherently in the infinity wave. You simply run the figure eight made of flowing water from your heart across to theirs, and it flows right back to you. You are still holding the memory of the hurt you experienced, and yet you are sending love and compassion to the person who hurt you. Holding compassion and pain at the same time. As you run this infinity wave effortlessly, the recognition of your own imperfections, of the ways in which you have been insensitive to others in the past, perhaps even this person, and the reasons why you may have been blind and unfeeling, or even deliberately hurtful. The reasons for your own transgressions come to mind, and you realize there is an equality here. Two imperfect humans, face to face, bound in love and compassion, regardless of their transgressions and imperfections. The love and compassion flows in both directions. And as you experience more and more love and compassion, the pain of the past simply melts away. It is no longer necessary to carry this forward. And as it begins to disappear, the person in front of you begins to lift off their seat as if pulled by an invisible force, ever so slowly up and away from you, while the infinity wave continues to flow. And they recede slowly, slowly, being released on love and compassion until they are out of view. Sitting here in the white room, the sense of relief and renewal washes over you. A great burden has been released. And in this cleansed state, you are ready. Ready for rebirth. Ready with a clean slate. For what is to come. Finally, gratitude washes through you for the lessons learned thanks to that person you just released. My friends, this practice is meant to be done as many times as needed. You'll find there's practically always someone who will walk through the door. I have so much love in my heart for you all tonight. I thank you again. And I hope to see you very soon. Till then, much love.